أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So today we shall continue with our lessons in strategic management. Last week we did not have our lessons because of the Eid al-Adha break. So before the break we covered two lessons, and in our first lesson we talked more about the introduction to strategic management. What is strategic management? The importance of strategic management, the principle of strategic management, And in our second lesson, we talked in detail about the strategic management process. Now, we also talked about the vision setting, the mission setting in our last lesson. Now, today, we shall be talking about one of the most important areas in strategic management, and that area is the business environment, al-bi'a. So when we are talking about al-bi'a, we are basically talking about the environment in which the organization is operating. So we have two types of environment, the internal environment and the external environment. So if you want to formulate a good strategy, we need to analyze both the internal and external so that we know our strength and we know our weaknesses. So this is what we shall be covering. So this is what is known as environmental scanning. In some books, they use the word analysis, environmental analysis. So these are our lesson's objectives. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to define what is environmental scanning. Number two, you should be able to describe the importance, ahmiyatu tahlil al-bi'a. Then number three, explain the role of environmental scanning. Like, why do we need to scan our environment? Then also identify the levels of environmental scanning. Then differentiate between types of environments in business analysis. Then lastly, analyze the components of the internal environment. So in brief, this is what we shall be discussing in our lesson today. Now, let us start. So as we are starting, I need you to be keen and analyze this framework. And this is the framework that is depicting the strategic management process. So if you look closely in this framework, in our last lesson, we talked about the mission, the objectives, and we also talked about the vision and goals. So once our mission is very clear, once our objective is very clear, the next step is to do an environment analysis, the external analysis and the internal analysis. So these are the two things that we shall be doing today. And then in our next lesson, we shall go to the next step, which is the strategic choice. We shall talk in detail about the types of strategy. So before we choose the type of strategy that we want, we need to have some information about our external business environment and our internal business environment. So that is what is called external scanning and the internal scanning, or sometimes they use analysis in place of analysis. Now, also this framework is very important to as we are starting a framework of the business environment. So when we are talking about the business environment, we normally have the external business environment. You can see the word external, and we also have the internal environment. So as a person who wants to be successful in the business, I need to know my external environment, the political, economic situation, my suppliers, my competitors, ila ghairi dhalik. Then also I need to analyze my internal environment, business environment, my production strategy, my personnel, my structure, my finances, ila ghairi dhalik. So I need to analyze those two environments. Now, number one, what is the meaning of tahlil al-bi'a? Or what do we mean by environmental scanning? It is just like when you are scanning your mobile. For example, your mobile has a problem. So you are scanning to find what the problem is. So environmental scanning is a systematic. Systematic means khatawat, process, step 1, step 2, step 3. So it is a systematic process of doing what? We are gathering al-jam, analyzing, tahlil, and interpreting, tafsir of what? Ma'lumat, information about external and internal environment. Why are we analyzing? Because we want to identify the opportunities and the threats that could influence an organization's future strategy. So it's all about analyzing, it's all about gathering information related to our external and internal environment. Because we want to know, ya jamaa, ma hiya al-furas? What are the opportunities in our environment? Thumma ma hiya al-tahaddiyat? What are the barriers? What are the obstacles? What are the challenges that might affect our strategy? Another definition, environmental scanning refers to the process, al-amaliya, of monitoring al-rikaba, evaluating, taqim, and disseminating information. Disseminating is all about sharing and getting. So this is the element of gathering information from the external and internal environment. Why? Why are we doing this analysis? We are doing it for the decision makers. So before you make any decision, before you choose any strategy, you have to analyze the environment. Another definition, environmental scanning is the process of systematically analyzing the internal and external factors that impact an organization's operations, strategy, and decision making. So it involves gathering, monitoring, and evaluating information about what are the trends, what are the events, and what is the relationship between them within an organization environment. So these are the three definitions of environmental scanning. And from these three definitions, we can summarize and say that environmental scanning or analysis is all about, number one, gathering information about our environment. Then when we gather, we need to analyze. Once we analyze, we also need to do what? To monitor and evaluate. Now, what is the importance of environmental scanning? Is it important? Yes, it's important. Why? So, proactive decision making. Environmental scanning allows organization to anticipate. Anticipate means at-tanabbu bil mustaqbal. So, to anticipate the changes and respond proactively rather than reactively. These two statements are very important in strategic management. As a manager, as a businessman, you always have to be proactive and not reactive. In an exam, they can ask you, what is the difference between proactive and reactive? So the difference is that proactive, you anticipate the problem before the problem. So by the time the problem comes, already you have the plan. But reacting is you just sit in your comfort zone, you sleep, and when the problem comes, you start reacting. That is the meaning of reacting. You wait for the problem, then find the solution. But proactive, you even find the solution before the problem. Number two, it helps in risk management. When we analyze our environment, we can be able to know al-makhatir, and we can be able to come with a plan. لِتَجَنُّبْ هَذِهِ الْمَخَاطِرِ. Number three, opportunity identification. If you are doing any business, the opportunity comes from your environment. Your customers are there, your suppliers are there, the needs are there in the environment. So the environment is a source of opportunity. Then number four, strategic alignment. So it ensures the organization's strategy are aligned with the external environment. So it basically means that the strategic, you come late, you disturb our class. When we are talking about strategic alignment, we are basically saying hunaka tawafuk between what we are doing and what is happening outside. That is the meaning of alignment. So we don't want to be doing something inside our organization, but outside the environment, something else is happening. No. Then lastly, competitive advantage. Al-miza at-tanafusiya. We need to analyze the environment. Limadha? Because our competitors are there. We need to know, Muhammad, how is his business doing? Khadija, how is her business doing? Because they are our competitors. I'm going to compete with them. I need to know their strength. I need to know their weaknesses so that I can capitalize on that. Now, what is the role of environmental scanning in strategic management? So, this analysis of the environment, how is it important? What role does it play in strategic management? So number one, it is the input for strategy formulation. Listen, before we choose our strategy, we need to get information from the environment. So we cannot formulate our strategy without getting the information. Look, let me give you an example. There are two teams playing. Barcelona is playing with Real Madrid. So I am the coach of Barcelona. Before I choose the strategy, before I choose how I am going to play, I need to go to the internet to see the last 4 or 5 games of Madrid. How are they playing in the first game, in the second game? Who was playing? How are they playing? Who is having an injury? Who is not going to play today? This is known as analysis. So once I get the information about Madrid, I am going to decide as Barcelona, we need to play 4-3-3, we need to play 3-5-1, or we need to play 5-3-1. Number two, scenario planning. So it helps organization prepare for multiple future scenarios. So scanning the environment enables me to know, to have scenario. This is the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. So for every scenario, I have a plan, a contingency plan. If the prices will go up in the future, this is our plan. If the prices will go down, this will be our plan. If the government will come up with a new policy, this is my plan. So it is called scenario planning. If the petrol price is going to go up, if the war in Iran is going to continue, what am I going to do? What is my plan A, B, and C? Number three, performance monitoring. So the strategy, the environmental scanning, it helps us to monitor our performance, because our performance as an organization is based on what is happening in our environment. It determines our cost, it determines our revenue, it determines our human resource, it determines our financial resource. Then number four, resource allocation. So environmental scanning, it helps us to know where should we put our money, which business is doing well. So it helps us not to do israf, not to put money where we are going to get a loss. So we can only put money where there is high potential. So this is the role of environmental scanning in strategic management. Now, on to the next step. What now is the level of environmental scanning? Listen, the environment is very big. So you are an environment. You as Muhammad, you are an environment. The personal environment, we have the professional environment, we have the organizational environment, we have the industry, and we have the external. So in each and every level, we need to scan. Every level we scan, we get information, go to the next level, we also scan. Now, environmental scanning can be conducted at 3 levels. In general, there are very many levels, but in general, we always have 3 levels. Number 1 is the global level. Number 2 is the industry level. Then number 3 is the organizational level. So I, as a businessman, I, as a manager, when I am doing an environmental analysis, I need to focus with these 3 levels. Okay. Number 1 is the global level. And this global level, another word for the global level is the macro environment factors. So these are the factors that affect organization on a global scale. Global means on a bigger scale. Now, it includes, so when we are analyzing at the global level, we normally use this framework. It is called the PESTEL analysis. So each and every letter stands for something. Number 1, the P is for political environment. E is the economic environment. The C is the social environment. The T is for the technological environment. The second E is for the environment. Then lastly, the legal environment. So I need to analyze and get full information of what is happening. So this is the PESTEL analysis. Number 1, P, you are in Somali. You need to know the government policies. Every day, the government is coming up with new policies. How is these policies going to affect my business? For example, if the government decides to increase the tax, how is this tax going to affect my business? If the government comes with a policy, labor law, the person you are supposed to employ, how much you are supposed to pay them their salary, it is going to affect me as a business. The political stability. As a businessman, I want always to do my business in a stable environment. So you cannot do business in Iran now. Why? Because it is not stable. You cannot go to Ukraine now and say, I'm going to invest in Ukraine. There is war there. So you have to look at the political stability of the place you want to invest. Then you need to know about the trade regulations. So for example, if you are doing business in school, changes in education policy affecting school. If I am investing in schools, the government can decide to come with a policy. This policy is going to affect me. Number 2, economic environment. What is the economic growth in Somali? Is the economy growing? If the economy is growing, it means my customers, they have money, they can buy. But if the economy is going down, the economy is not growing, business is not going to do well. Inflation at tadakhum, where there is an increase in the prices of goods, where money has no value. The interest rate from the banks. Unemployment, if people are employed, they cannot buy my goods. What is the exchange rate? I need to know as a businessman. The social environment. What is the demographic? What is the composition of the demography? The population. The old men, the young people, the women. Who am I targeting? My business. Who am I targeting? The culture. For example, you cannot come to Somalia and sell khamr. Khamr is haram. You cannot come, for example, to Somaliland and you start selling al-khinzir. No. So you have to know the culture of the people, then you start the business there. What is the lifestyle? What is the education level of the people? What is the attitude? So this is the social environment. The technological environment. So you need to know what is happening. Nowadays, the AI is a game changer. So you need to always know, how am I going to incorporate AI in my business? What kinds of AI are there? You need to know about all these. You need to know about the research and development, what is happening in terms of the research. You know, environmental. When you're talking about the environmental, you're talking about the climate change. For example, I am in the my business is related to agriculture, right? If it is very hot, it is going to affect my business. If it is raining, it's going also to affect my business. So I have to know there's some regulation. If I am opening an industry, there's some environmental regulation that will affect my business. I need to know. Then the legal environment. What are the laws of Somalia? You know, what are the employment law? What are the labor law? So you need to know the law if you want to get a license. What are the employment law? So all these are very, very important. So this is now the global level. So so that is number one, the global level. So in the global level, we use the PESTEL framework. Number two, we have finished with the global level. Now we are going to the industry. What is the meaning of industry? Industry means the sector I am or I intend to start my business. Is it the education industry? Is it the telecommunication industry? Is it the textile industry? Is it the hotel and restaurant industry? So I need to be specific now. So the global analysis is general, but the industry level is very specific. So here, there are 5 things that I need to know. Competitive rivalry. I need to know if I want to open Alpha University. There are also other universities. Mogadishu University is there. Hormuz University is there. I need to know my competitors. Number 2, I need to know my supplier. I am having a business. My supplier, are they in Somali or my supplier is in China? How many are they? Are they many or my suppliers are not many? Then number 3, I need to analyze my customers, my buyer. Are they enough? If I start this hotel, will people come to my hotel? So I need to know my customers. What do they have money? Then number 4, the threat of substitute. If, for example, I am selling coffee, there is a substitute, al-badil. People can decide today, we don't want coffee, we want tea. So I need to know what are the substitutes, right? Then number 5, the threat of new entrants. I need to know, ya Jama, maybe there are some people who will join this market. I need to know what will happen in future, the new entry. So this is what is called the industry level. So in the industry level, I need to analyze these 5 things. You know, so I need to analyze the competitors. And when you are talking about the competitors, as it is explained here, the competitive rivalry, you know, I need basically to know if I'm starting any business, I need to know how many are there. If I want to start a university, how many universities are already there? How are they operating? How many students are they having? How is their marketing strategy? How is their admission? How is their school fee? I need to collect that information. Number 2, I also need to know the supplier. How many are they? Are they internal in Somalia? Are they outside Somalia? I need to know. So in brief, this is what is called the industry level analysis. It is the Porter. You'll go and research more about it. So Porter is the one who came with this idea. He's the name of the scholar. So that is why it is called the Porter's 5 forces model. Now, we have finished with the industry. Now we are going down. Remember, we started with the global industry. Now we are going in our organization. We need to know what is happening in our organization. So this level focuses on the internal environment of the organization. So here, I need to know my resources. I need to know my financial resources. I need to know my human resource. Are they enough? What are the kinds of skills that they have? Are they well trained? Then I also need to analyze there is what is known as operational efficiency. Operational efficiency basically means how are we doing our work in the organization every day? If it is in the university, how is my admission? How is the teaching process? Then organizational culture. What is our culture? What are the values in my organization? What are the leadership style in my organization? Because all these things are going to affect me as a business. It's going to affect me as a business person. Now, also here broadly, there are some scholars. So there are some scholars, they have just, according to them, they've just divided the environment into two. We have the internal, we have the external. So according to them, we have the internal environment, which is inside the organization. Then we have the external environment, which is the macro and micro. So when you're talking about the macro, remember, macro is the global. Micro, this is the industry level. So these two, they are the external environment, the global and the industry. Now, the internal is the what? Is the organizational level. So this model is just the same with the previous one. There's no difference. Now, when we are talking about our internal environment, there are many things that we need to evaluate inside our organization. Our human resource, our finance, our capital, our vision and mission, our value, ila ghayri dhalik. There are very many things we need to analyze. Now, the internal environment of an organization consists of factors within its control that influence its operations, performance, and strategic decision. In an exam, you can be asked, what is the difference between internal environment and external environment? You can be asked, what is the difference? So the difference is that when we are talking about the internal environment, these are factors that we can control. I can control what is happening in my house. I can control what is happening in my organization. So that is why it is called internal. But external, these are things that I cannot control. I cannot control the politics of the country. I cannot control the economy. I cannot control the social factors. I cannot control the technology. خارج السيطرة لا أستطيع أن أسيطر على هذه الأوامر. That is why they are called external. But internal, what is happening inside, as the manager, I can control everything that is happening in my business. So that is the difference between internal, I can control. External, I cannot control. Now, there are very many components of the internal environment. Number one, we have the organizational resources. ما هي الموارد inside my organization? Number two, what is the culture and the leadership inside my organization? Number three, the SWOT analysis. I need to know what are my strengths and weakness inside the organization. So these are the three things that I need to analyze inside my organization. So number one, what are the resources? I need to analyze and scan the kinds of resources I'm having. Number one, I have the human resource, al-mawarid al-bashariya. So these are the skills, expertise, and talent. So I need to know where I'm going to get my human resource, and I need to know what I am having. So it is all about the demand and supply of the human resource. So if you want to be successful as a business, you need to have employees who are skilled, talented, and motivated and committed. But if your human resource is not that good, your business is not going to be to grow. So your business is determined by the quality of the workforce that you're having. We have companies like Google, we have companies like Microsoft, we have companies like Apple. They have the best in the world. Number two, money. I need to know what is in my account. I need to know my financial stability. Because if I don't have enough, I'm not going to run the business. Number three, technological and physical assets. I need to know the laptop, I need to know the furniture, I need to know the physical assets, and I also need to know to do what? To know the technology that is inside my organization. Have I incorporated AI in my business? Have I incorporated the management information? Because nowadays everything is about software, everything is about machines. Then intellectual property. This is very important. This is what is called the intangible resource. So when we are talking of intellectual property, I'm talking about, for example, your brand. The name, the name is a resource. For example, Nike. You cannot use Nike anywhere. If you use it, they'll take you to a court of law. So the name of your business, that is the brand. For example, Toshiba, that name, you cannot use it. That is a brand. People will just go, I need Toshiba, I need Apple. Why not? Why not Infinix? So there should be a trademark. There should be something that your business is identified with. Now, another important thing, when we are talking about the resources, this is very important. Already I have said I have 4 types of resources, but I need to evaluate these resources. I need to ask myself, Ya Jama, these resources, are they giving me a competitive advantage? If the answer is yes, then you are good to go. But if the answer is no, I have to review my resources again. So the resource-based view is a strategic management framework that focuses on the internal resources and capabilities of an organization as the primary determinants of its competitive advantage and performance. So according to this is a theory, by the way. During your free time, go to the internet, research more. So this is a theory. So according to them, they're saying that, Ya Jama, if we want to be successful as a business, إذا نحن نريد أن ننجح, we should focus with our internal resources, not external resources. We should focus with what we have inside. Now, according to them, according to this theory, you need to ask yourself 4 questions. So there is what is known as the VRRR IO framework. This framework is helping us to understand and to know if our resources are a source of competitive advantage. So you will be asking yourself a question and you need to answer yes or no. So number one, you bring all your resources in the organization, you put it on the table. Then you ask yourself, number one, does it create value for my business? For example, you're having laptop. This laptop, it's my resource. You are asking yourself, Ya Jama, this laptop, is it creating value for my business? Is it reducing costs in my business? If it is yes, mashallah. You go to number two. Is it unique or scarce in the industry? This resource, is it unique? Because if it is not unique, then it is not giving you a competitive advantage. If many businesses are having it, that is not a competitive advantage. Number three, immutable. Is it difficult for competitors to replicate? Listen, if you are having a resource in your business and the other business can copy, if they can copy your idea, then that resource is not giving you a competitive advantage. That is why you are finding many businesses are failing, because people can copy you. Why is Apple very successful? Because why is iPhone? Why are they successful? Because they have something that nobody can copy. If you go to iPhone, they have some things that nobody, Infinix cannot copy, Samsung cannot copy, Tecno cannot copy. That is why iPhone is very expensive, because they have something that is unique, nobody can copy. But if somebody can wake up today and copy your business, so if you go to the market, you find copy. But if you go to the market, there is no copy for iPhone. You cannot find any copy for iPhone, but sometimes you can find copy for Samsung, made in China. I don't know. You can find copy for Nokia, because it's very easy to copy. So if it is easy to copy, then that is not a competitive advantage. Then lastly, can the company exploit it effectively? Can the company exploit these resources to get more? Is it easy to organize it? So those are the key questions that you need to ask yourself. And for each, there is always an answer. If it is yes, mashallah. If it is no, so this is what you find here. So for each, so we'll continue after the break. I will send another link, because this link is going to end now. So for each and every one, you ask yourself a question. Is it valuable? Look, if the answer is yes, then there is sustainable competitive advantage. If the answer is no, this is competitive disadvantage. Number two, rare. You ask yourself, is it rare? If the answer is yes, it's a competitive advantage. If it is no, there is competitive parity. Immutable. If the answer is yes, there is advantage. If the answer is no, temporary. Then is it